We come here even after being declared persona non grata. Yes. We still come here and say we must rebuild and we must reset the relationship with America, because our relationship with America over 50 years has not always been with the White House. It has sometimes been with Congress, and it has always been with the people of the United States of America. And we must hope that President Cyril Ramaphosa will be able to pick up where we left off. But we cannot have a simplistic idea that while we say there must be an ambassador, that you must put a white ambassador for a white president in the United States. We have tried to engage. We have been met with executive orders that cut our aid, cut PEPFAR, and now we sit with the idea that millions could be reinfected with HIV and AIDS. The research for the vaccine may not be one that could be completed. Those are the dangerous things that are happening, and why we must mend our relationship or sit out the next 4 years.
A lot of people in South Africa have lost funding, people have lost jobs because of the withdrawal of US aid. We're here for Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank and elsewhere who've actually, been still being murdered by Trump's genocide and Netanyahu's genocide. So I think Ibrahim Rasool is essentially, he stood up against that, and our government stood up against that. And while we are reaping consequences, we stood on moral ground.
Right.
What I'm getting at is, should other ambassadors be on alert? Can they not criticize President Trump without fear of being expelled?
Well, I think it's not about criticism. This was the equation of the president and the country with white supremacy. It was an allegation that casts such an awful light on the nature of the country, on individuals. It is. I mean, if we don't have a standard about the nature of someone who is in this country, who is supposed to be a diplomat to help facilitate the relationship between two countries, and that this is the standard of it, we deserve better. We've had a decent level of diplomacy with South Africa. There are some challenges, but you want people in each embassy who can actually facilitate a relationship. And these remarks were unacceptable to the United States, not just to the president, but to every American. They were pretty much obscene when it came to the nature of what was alleged.
And so out of the slavery, out of this exile, grew this Muslim community of Cape Town to integrate into the broader communities of Cape Town, and fought colonialism, fought apartheid, and today this community is one of the freest communities in the Muslim world that you can find.
But it certainly is an expression of the new US administration's intention to basically bully all other countries into submission. What the Trump administration is showing and proving is that they don't necessarily have any respect for any of those norms. They don't have respect for international law. They don't have respect for international institutions. The US acts on the basis not of values at all, but interests. Interests of it and always its allies, but now that number of allies is becoming smaller and smaller. So certainly in the interest of the United States and Israel. It's forcing other countries to adapt their foreign policy and even their domestic policy in terms of what is in the interest of the United States and in the interest of its agenda. So the US attitude generally now under this new administration is one of aggression and bullying. And this applies not only to African states. It applies to Canada, for example. It applies to Mexico. It applies to Denmark. It applies to various European states. So this is the new norm for the Trump administration and for the US. What a country like South Africa needs to do is build and strengthen its diplomatic relations with others, starting with the Global South, build a strong kind of Global South alliance.
Nelson Mandela knows that over this period, across 18 states of the United States of America, people are gathering to celebrate his life, his legacy and values, then he will know that he is not going to pass out of existence. All over the world, people need his values, they need his legacy, not as a museum piece, but as something real and living that we can use in our everyday lives. I have simply come here to give thanks. And I want to thank the leaders of the House and the leaders of Senate for putting together this celebration of the life, legacy and values of Nelson Mandela. By 1657, the first Muslim had come to Cape Town. A century later, there was a thriving community, but they were enslaved and they were exiled. This castle that we're in is a place in which the dungeons have housed a community of slaves and Muslims, most of them imprisoned because they were not allowed to practice their religion. And so out of the slavery, out of this exile, grew this Muslim community of Cape Town to integrate into the broader communities of Cape Town and fought colonialism, fought apartheid, and today this community is one of the freest communities in the Muslim world that you can find.